Briefly, but not too briefly, what's Voices about? Voices for Youth.
I tell people that it's an experiment in youth leadership that is exceeding everyone's expectations. So Voices itself is 10 years old. Voices Sonoma is 5 years old. And so 5 years ago, 10 current and former foster youth got together and said, you know, there's something missing in the whole nest of services that exists in Sonoma County, and we don't know what it is, but we really would like to figure it out. So an organization called On the Move got involved, and they're the parent organization to Voices, and they facilitated a founding process where they asked young people, okay, let's talk about what is missing. And basically through the facilitated conversations came this idea that it's too hard to try to navigate through the entire county to get your needs met. I mean, you could be on the bus for 6-7 hours every day. So they just wanted a place where they could come, where everything was located under one roof, where they were in charge, where nobody treated them like a kid, nobody treated them like a case file. And when they walked in the door, somebody that looked like them, that they knew, greeted them, and they felt safe. And so Voices was born. They made up the mission statement, they picked the building, they decorate it, they run it, they do the budgeting, they do the fundraising, they really do run the operations of each individual center. So it's a drop-in center for young people. We focus on current and former foster youth, but it's a fun place to come, so we get a lot of young people. We serve about 750 young people every year in this center, and the young people just do amazing things, and I get to watch them every day, you know, exceed in areas where they never thought they had any skills. They're learning things every single day and just really enjoying it while they're doing it. So,
but they have guidance.
Oh, sure. The one of the pillars of Voices is a belief about intergenerational partnership. So there's adult coaches that function in a lot of different roles to support the young people. It really is about partnership. There's no power plays that happen at Voices.
Is there any power plays between the young people that are here? Do you see that, oversee it, guide it, or?
Well, we push the young people to explore the highest level of their own personal leadership. So we're always encouraging young people to step up, step out of their comfort zone. So once in a while, there will be a young person that just excels at leading, but they don't do it in a way that makes other young people feel isolated. If they're a really good community leader, then they're making sure that everybody feels connected and like they're part of the team. So, but we really encourage that because this community can use as many leaders as it can get.
And do you identify that in a pre-conversation before they arrive? Or?
Oh yeah, it's very much about direct communication and having real conversations with the young people so that they know what they're getting into and what the expectations are. So they know that coming in. And then we have a lot of sophisticated tools to measure developmental growth and leadership skills, so they know exactly how they're progressing on these matrices and all these fancy things that we put together for grants and funders. But at the end of the day, it really is about one-on-one conversations, group conversations. We create space for cultural pieces that help young people be successful. So every month we have what we call a reflection time. So we sit together and we talk about how the work affects us and if it triggers anything inside of us and how we're coping with it, and just allowing for that space to be very real with each other. And that's what we expect all the time. So
they view it as a place of refuge?
Support.
Support. And how do they identify that they need support?
I think in a whole myriad of ways, but I think at the end or the beginning of any day, a young person feels connected to what it feels like to be disconnected or lost. And we have great word of mouth. That's how most of the young people find us. So in conversations at the transit station or, hanging outside of the Taco Bell, inevitably the suggestion about a visit to Voices will come up if a young person expresses that, oh, well, I haven't had anything to eat, or I don't know what I'm doing, or how do I get back into college, or whatever might come up. So I think young people have a sense of where they're trying to go. It's hard sometimes to figure out what that path looks like. And that's what Voices does, is helps them along the path.
For the most part, what are they missing? You're saying you're offering, what are you offering? You're offering guidance, you're offering opportunity, you're offering another way.
Yes, all of those things. Through the strategy of it all being peer-led and peer mentoring. So our focus areas are around housing, education, employment, and health and wellness. So those are our focus areas. So we have what we call co-located staff, which are actually staff of other agencies that come and spend time here. We don't feel like we need to duplicate the services that exist in the community. There's so many great services. Why not just invite them to come in and hang out with us? And so those are our core service areas. But the young people really are talking to each other and saying, hey, I know what it feels like to have just aged out of the foster system and not know what you're doing and don't have a job, but this is the path that I took, so let me help you figure out what your path looks like. And so it really is a lot of encouragement, a lot of coaching, a lot of hanging out and developing strong and authentic relationships.
And it's non-judgmental?
Oh, totally non-judgmental. It's not, that's a huge part of what we do. It's, the young people say that when a young person walks in the room, the first thing that they say to them is, how can I help you where you are? And it's all about meeting them at the level that they come in with no preconceived notion of where they should be, no judgment. Not every single young person is different, so they all get treated as such.
Right. And who are the partners that you work with in terms of health and careers?
So Social Advocates for Youth comes in and spends time here doing employment services, so resume writing and workshops and just general coaching. The Santa Rosa Junior College has a financial aid officer that's here every week, and she helps young people figure out how to pay for college. She's amazing at it. The Sonoma County eligibility worker, who's somebody who processes CalFresh and Medi-Cal applications, is here. That's one of our most popular services because everybody's hungry and wants to eat. We have other partners from Community Support Network, which offers some mental health services for us. We have a health navigator on site that we found through the Sonoma State Health Navigator program, and she helps connect young people with doctors or dentists or mental health professionals. So we have the Sonoma County Office of Education that comes in that helps young people when they're really behind in their high school credits. So we really, really rely on the community for our services. We couldn't do it without them.
How many people are out of work on the street? Roughly.
Well,
not exact numbers.
Yeah, it depends on how you're defining on the street. There's upwards of 1,100 homeless young people in Sonoma County, and I would guess 96% of them are out of work. So of the young people that come in here, out of the 750, 89% of them are looking for employment in some fashion or another.
Right. Are they looking to you to find them employment, or are they looking for you to guide them for them to find employment? Do you think?
Both. I think young people walk in the door thinking, okay, I'm going to go here and they're going to help me find a job. And we have employers in the community that we work with that are wonderful to our young people. Mary's Pizza Shack guarantees interviews to the young people that come from Voices, which is amazing. They've hired dozens of our young people over the years, but we don't call and set up the interview for them. We don't do their resume for them. We tell them these are the things that you need to have. Here's the phone number. You need to call, and when they don't call you back, you need to call again and follow up. And so it's mostly coaching that we do, and encouragement. Young people sometimes don't believe that they can do it,
right,
but we know they can.
So it's a sort of, here are the tools, now go and do it.
And I believe in you. Yep.
Okay, I think you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have any married couples or singles who come in?
Both. We have married couples, we have couples with children, we have single mothers with children, we have single young people that have been out on the streets for a number of years, we have young people that just found themselves on the streets, we have young people that are part of the foster care system that are thriving and doing a really good job. And every young person along that spectrum has something that they can come to Voices and benefit from, even if it's just having a chat with another young person that has been in their shoes.
How do they define, we spoke to Karen at the foundation, and she mentioned that she visited and seen a board meeting going on, and there were no adults in the board meeting. Can you explain how that works?
There's a lot of programs in this country that consider themselves youth-led. I feel like we really adhere to that principle very, very well. My board at each of the centers is a group of 12 youth council members. We call them a youth council, and they do the program evaluation. They do my evaluation. They really look at the services that are being offered and make sure that they meet the needs. The same thing any other board of directors would do. But this is a youth-led center, so it makes sense that the board of directors would be a group of young people, and they don't need adults in there. I mean, some people believe that young people can't be effective unless there's an adult in the room, but that's not true. They know what they're doing. I mean, we pick leaders in the community, young people that serve on commissions and boards and do wonderful things, and they know how to be in a board meeting.
Okay.
Lots of times I have to be in there, but that's usually when they're telling me what I need to do.
So they give you instructions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What other decisions do they make? Do they make decisions about themselves?
Oh, yeah. They govern themselves. They have a set of guidelines that they go by. They vote on new members. Luckily, we haven't had them throw any members off, so that's good. They talk about the schedule of the center. They decided a while back that we need to close on Mondays because the young people, the staff, need time to do all of their data entry and analysis and budgeting, and so they close the centers on Mondays. They decide, they have a lot of conversations about the young people that come in here too. This young person has been here this amount of time and we've seen little progress, so who's going to talk to them? Or this young person came in and they're not respecting the rules of Voices, so somebody needs to tell them that they can't come back until they choose to do that. Or they say, this young person has been doing really well, we should get them a cake. I mean, it's every kind of conversation that they have. They have a lot of, because some of the staff are on the youth council, they're very invested in not only the policy making, but also the direct services that happen, which is a little bit different than some board of directors.
And do they gauge themselves successes and failures or things to work at?
Oh yeah, and that happens on a number of different levels. So Voices has an evaluation plan for every program that we run, and then an evaluation plan of Voices as a whole. And so that group is constantly participating in the evaluation process and really looking at how we're doing in terms of that measurement. But then they're also having individual conversations. They go out, they'll leave the meeting, and they'll have conversations with the young people in the center and say, how do you feel about this? Do you think we could be doing this better? They do a lot of surveys, non-traditional surveys, because young people don't like to fill out a lot of surveys. And so there's a lot of thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side kind of questions that happen. So they're it's one of the most wonderful things to watch, because this group of young people is constantly thinking about how to improve services, how to better meet the needs of the community, and just all around how to have a fantastic program. And not because they're trying to impress anybody or because they're worried about where the funding's coming from, although they do worry about that, but because they care and because they want to make sure that the young people in Sonoma County have a great place to come.
Okay. In terms of funding, which you mentioned, where do you get your funding from?
We have a really nice healthy mix of funding from government sources. We have local dollars. We don't have any state or federal dollars. We have some really fabulous foundations that come from throughout the state and then also throughout the country that really are invested in the success of foster youth. And then we have a lot of individual donors that step forward, and some, give us $20 and some give us a lot more. But we couldn't, that's the foundation on which we build our other arguments for funding, is that there's such an example of local investment in Sonoma County that, if you're a government contractor or a national funder, we can say, look, this is how much our community believes in us. We need you to believe in us too.
So you used your local support as leverage for wider support, is that correct?
That is a key to the way that we think about how we do fundraising, is that we absolutely rely on the local foundations, whether it be the Community Foundation or the Valley of the Moon Children's Home Foundation. We absolutely rely on them because we need them to be the first carrot in the funding stew, so that we can go out and say, look, we have this local investment and this belief in what we're doing. And if they believe in us, then you should believe in us too, because they're here, they see what we're doing, they see the results, and they're happy. So invest.
How do you get the word out to the outside world about what you're doing?
So in terms of the larger community, not the young people, because the young people hear it from each other.
It's word of mouth, as you say.
The larger community hears it from the young people. The young people go out and talk all the time. So another just quick funny story is we have a relationship with Jay at the Community Foundation, and he's a wonderful guy. And he was telling me this story about how he's gone into Pete's Coffee right across from the Community Foundation for a number of years. And every time he goes in, they don't know his name, they don't know his drink, and he goes every day. And then one day he walks in and he hears, from across the store, Jay, I'm so excited that you're here. And it was Jimmy, one of our founding members that has since left Voices and is now working in the community. And he remembered exactly what Jay liked to drink, and he, gave it to him for free, and they had this whole dialogue. And
so he was behind the counter.
He was behind the counter.
Okay.
And so, Jay is telling me this story, and so he says to me, that makes a difference. You can see how Voices is working by how the young people hold themselves and are represented in the community. So following that, Jay mentioned something to Pete's, and then Pete's let Jimmy and Voices put a table out in front of Pete's over the holiday season. So it's, it really is, we're really represented well by the young people. And then when other community partners see how excited they are, then they're invited over. We just participated in the 1 Billion Rising movement on Saturday. We were contacted by the Commission on the Status of Women, and they said, hey, will you have a table? And we said, sure. And so they went and they did the whole dance and participated in any way that they can. They love to talk about Voices. So they go to, as many meetings as they can, and they go to as many events as they can, and they just like to spread the word.
Good. Let's get slightly more specific now with the Community Foundation. When you approach them specifically for a grant for Voices, for Sonoma County Voices, you have 3 offices, I believe.
3 centers, yes.
When you approached them specifically, what was the process that you had to go through? Was it a series of pre-conversations and then they said, well, can you fill in this form? Or
no, it wasn't anything as formal as that. It was making the connection and inviting them over to see the work that we're doing. And then I made a follow-up call and said, hey, is there any way that we can partner? And they called me back a little while later and said, yeah, we think that this is possible. So there was an application. It was simple and not complicated. And I appreciated it because it wasn't the same 6-page application where you have to say the same things over and over and make all these promises that, you're going to try really hard to meet, but who knows if you really will. None of that. It was mostly like, why do you believe in the work that you're doing? What impact in the community are you having? What do you hope to see changed? And I love to talk about that stuff. So we completed the application and got a phone call a couple weeks later. This, because it's a donor advised fund, they had to go to the donor and say, do you accept this? And donor said yes. And so then we got a phone call and said, congratulations, here's some funding. The renewal process has been easy. It's not, it's always this choice when you're applying for funding, but then when you're applying for renewal funding, is it really cost efficient? How much time and resources is it taking to complete the renewal application? And is it worth it when, it's not $1 million grant or $100,000 grant? Is it really worth it? And in the case of the Community Foundation, it definitely is, because it's really an update of what you've done. It's talking about what you want to do. It's, providing some stories about the impact. And then we got a second phone call and said, congratulations, you've been approved for renewal funding.
On the renewal basis, do you think, is it more of a human interaction rather than an administrative interaction? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So their decision is essentially made, they obviously want success. Mm-hmm. They want to see the funds that have been invested come to fruition. So it's their observation, their human interaction with you, their observation by visitation. Mm-hmm. Is that the way it sort of works?
Yeah, so it was interesting actually, because I had invited Karen over to come and take a tour because she hadn't been here since we put all the artwork up. And I know how much she loves artwork, so I really wanted her to see it. So we scheduled a time and she came over and she brought a couple other people, and they went through the center and talked to young people, and the young people loved talking to them. And so then we went upstairs and chatted for a while. It wasn't until later that I found out that was actually an official site visit, which takes the place of a final report. So it didn't occur to me to ask. I just wanted them to come and hang out. And it didn't feel like this whole, okay, we're all going to put suits on and sit around the table and I'm going to make sure you have water and, that whole thing. It was more like a dialogue, and the young people were involved and they got to see it. And it was just a really, really fantastic visit.
Do you think that an organization such as that, like the Community Foundation, is as well known as it should be in terms of organizations in need, not necessarily like your own, but others? It's, as I said previously, a lot of people think they're a cash cow, particularly artists. Mm-hmm. And they're not. They're very specific in who they choose. What do you think that they could do, if they need to do anything at all, they could do to clarify their status in the community?
So I think that they are well known. I don't believe that they're well known for the value that they bring. Because like I said before, there's so much more value than them writing a check. Checks are great, but there's so much more value in the connections that they make, in the advice that they give, in the guidance that they provide. And that part I do not think that people realize. That Miguel has so many contacts that I don't need him to figure out a way to get me a check. But if I'm running this program and he knows somebody that's really interested in this program and can make a connection for me, then that's an opportunity. And I think that if we could figure out a way to help the nonprofit community specifically, whatever that looks like in Sonoma County, all 1,200 of us, really focus less on the dollar and more on the value of relationships and on the communication, I think that would be very beneficial. I've seen a shift in the Community Foundation in the last few years. I see them more at community meetings. All of them, Beth and Karen and Jay, they're everywhere. And I think that's really been helpful. So just continuing participation in venues where it's not me applying to you for something, but just we're part of this community together. I think that a continuance of that practice is going to be very beneficial for them.
So in a way, sort of a role that you play.
Yeah.
But on a larger scale.
On a different, in a different place. It takes all of us to be able to do this. And again, the money is important. We have to be able to turn the lights on. But I do what I do, and they do what they do, and this guy over here does what he does, and together is how we recognize success in the community. So we all have to play together.
That's a good end. Amber, thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome.